Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Cooking from Quarantine. Today we're talking turkey. Since we're all staying home for Thanksgiving this year, yes, that's what we're doing. There's going to be a lot more turkey being cooked because instead of cooking for 15 people or 20 people or more, we're cooking for like 2 or 5 or little groups. So I thought, why not show everyone how I do my Thanksgiving turkey? So today we're going to need a turkey, which I hope you've already gotten because if you haven't yet, it's going to be hard to get. This turkey was delivered Tuesday. It defrosted overnight in my fridge. You just leave it in the fridge with a tray underneath it to catch any like weird viscera that you don't want floating around in your fridge. So it's been defrosted overnight. So we need a turkey. This is like a 8 to 10 pound turkey. Yours might be bigger. This recipe works either way, so don't worry about it. We're going to need celery, carrots, an onion, and we're going to be doing a dry brine today. Dry brine forever. Wet brine, I think, makes turkey kind of mealy and gross, and I don't know why people do a wet brine. And also, wet brines take up an enormous amount of room in your fridge, and since fridge space is at a premium during Thanksgiving, I see no reason to do a wet brine, but you have to brine your bird, and so we're doing a dry brine. This is a 1/4 cup of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, a tablespoon of garlic granules, a 1/2 tablespoon of onion granules, and a tablespoon of fresh ground black pepper. All of these salty things are going to dry out our bird. So you also need a very sharp knife, maybe cooking shears if you have them, and some half sheet tray, baking sheet, cookie sheet, whatever you got, some kind of sheet that we can use, and a stock pot because we're going to be making our own stock today. Please make your own stock. It's so good for the holidays, and it's super easy, and you're going to have a bunch of leftover bird anyway. Why will you have leftover bird? I'll tell you why. Because we are going to be cooking our Thanksgiving dinner in pieces instead of as a whole bird for a few reasons. First of all, when you roast a whole bird, something that's this large takes a really long time to cook, and usually you stuff it with things, right? You just shove like a whole bunch of bread up a turkey's ass and like call it stuffing. Don't do that because it means that air can't circulate through the bird, which makes it take even longer for the bird to cook. And when you cook something this large, things like thigh pieces are going to not take as long as breast pieces will, and so that's how you wind up getting a dry bird. It's also how you wind up having to like somehow wake up at like 4 a.m. on Thanksgiving to start cooking, which is ridiculous. My way of doing this, your turkey's going to take like an hour, which also means that you can like heat everything up at the same time, and all of your Thanksgiving food is going to get on the table at once. So let's begin, shall we? First, let's talk about the parts of the bird because we're going to be butchering our own bird. So these are the legs. This is the back, which becomes important. The legs are attached to the thighs. These are your little wings. And then here's our tatas. So why is this important? I'll tell you why. We're breaking this down into like kind of grocery store pieces. So we're going to take out, trust me, this is the neck. This is like an icicle that I found inside my bird. I'm going to toss that in the sink because that's gross. Make sure there's nothing else in your bird. If there's a giblets bag up, which was stuck all the way at the top of mine. Look at that. I don't use the giblets. Some people do. Find it like to be highly unnecessary. So I'm going to toss that as well. So we have our neck here. We're also going to cut off our wing tips because they'll burn and they'll do better as part of our stock. So, oh, and you're going to need a stock pot, I should say that. All of the pieces of the bird should break at their joints. So if you really have to fight with the turkey, you're doing something wrong. So that's one wing tip off. Take your other wingtip, do the same thing, break the joint. And you're gonna have to clean up after this. Like, this is a salmonella risk. Too bad. We're making delicious food. Sometimes to make delicious food, you have to live dangerously, right? So again, if you're fighting your knife and the bird, it just means that you haven't exactly found like where you broke the joint. So just wiggle it around until you feel it. There we go. Okay. So we have you off. Again, this is all going to be for pieces in our stock. And then anything weird that's like hanging off the bird, like there's this big kind of like neck fat thing, take that off. Anything like kind of unwieldy, let's take off the bird. Okay, now let me wash my hands. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let's cut that guy off too. Why not? Why not? He doesn't help. Okay. Now I'm going to take my very sharp knife, and here's the most important thing. We're going to be breaking down our bird. I'm going to make a line right down the back, right down the bone. And right here on the bird, right above the thighs, this is called the oyster of our turkey. This is the best part of the turkey. Like if you're a real MVP and you host Thanksgiving, like your family probably never knows what this part of the bird tastes like because you eat it in the kitchen while you're carving the bird so that nobody else can get it and you get like a reward for all the cooking that you did. You want this coming with you. So we're going to kind of save the oysters right now and you'll feel them. They're like little like turkey love handles that are right above the thigh. So we're going to kind of release the oyster because when we separate the thigh from the rest of the bird, we're going to want the oyster to come with it. So you're just going to get your knife kind of good and in there, and it's sort of like a semicircle shape that you're going to make with your knife. You'll feel it. Trust me, just let your knife do the work, and please keep your fingers out of the way. I had a very traumatizing potato peeling incident a few weeks ago that I have not really regained feeling in my pointer finger from, which I guess this is just how I live now. I had gotten my knives sharpened specifically for Thanksgiving, which I was really excited about, except I think the guy only did like a mediocre job because this is turkey skin and it's not really cutting. Okay, so we've kind of loosened up the oysters. Now we're going to go down through the rest of the thigh. And again, like you should not have to fight your bird on this. I say that as I nearly slice through my hand. There we go. So we're going to take the whole leg, the whole thigh, just kind of everybody all together now. There we go. And now we cut this side, and obviously this is a very drippy mess, so instead of doing this on a cutting board, I'm actually doing this into the sheet pan that it was defrosting on because everything about this is disgusting, that's why. But, you know, treat your food with respect. The turkey died for your dinner. Least you can do is, like, give it a quality last go-round. Okay. So this is all now loosened from itself. The backbone is a bone and it's hard, and so you're not going to be able to cut directly through it. So what you want to do with your knife is kind of feel around for the side of the bone and make your cuts there so that you're able to kind of separate all of this out. And again, like just go by feel. Here, let's do you upside down. I think that's going to be a little easier. Tremendous. Okay. Now I can actually see what I'm doing. And there's a lot of like breaking of bones in this. Just kind of like, this is how we do turkey, okay? There's no There's no elegant way. Here we go. Now we're starting to get our pieces, our little turkey pieces. Okay. See, you just gotta wiggle it until you find it. That's what she said. Okay, so we now have both thighs, and we're going to break the back of our turkey. Sorry, buddy. And you're just making sure you hold on to these oysters right here. So when you separate all of this out, just, sorry, that was the wrong side, these oysters here. So when you separate it out, just make sure that you're not losing that. So now, again, we're cutting right along the back bone of the bird, the spine. To make really nice, what is that? That's like weird discoloration that I'm going to cut off and throw away because I want you at my Thanksgiving dinner, buddy. Get out of here. Okay. Okay, so we have one leg and thigh down. Let's get our other leg and thigh down. I know this looks like a lot of work, and like it sort of is because we're butchering a bird, so you know, that's not like the easiest thing to do in the kitchen. See this little socket? That's what you want to break in order to make this easier. Yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world to butcher our own bird, and you can, of course, buy this done for you, but then you don't get the carcass to make your stock with, and so, like, what's the fun in that? And I'm sure there's people with, like, culinary degrees that will tell you that I'm doing this, like, all wrong. And that's fine. If they would like to come over and make my turkey for me, they can. Let's like move this so that you can see it. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to bleach my counter. And again, if it's not just coming right off, it's because you're not cutting in the right place. So don't fight with your bird. Fight with your family. Don't fight with your bird. It's Thanksgiving. Okay. Come on, buddy. My problem, this is not a turkey issue. This is a knife sharpness issue. It's like, why did I pay $35 to have my cutlery come out in the exact same condition I sent it to them in? I'm not sure. Here we go. Okay. Second thigh off. Thigh and leg. Let's move our carcass pieces out of the way. This is now to be saved with the carcass pieces for stock. Let's break down the rest of our bird, hopefully a little more elegantly than we did before, but no promises because, again, not a professional cook. Okay, so now we're going to take kind of the shoulder and there we go, the shoulder piece and the wing. We're just gonna not fully cut them yet, I'll show you why, but we just want to kind of separate it out from the bird a little bit. And the reason we're separating it out from the bird is because, here, you know what, let's take the rest of the, no, forget it. Okay, the reason we're separating it out from the bird is because we want it to stabilize the breast part while we cut the breasts. So, to get to the breasts, let's really wish I had the right tools to be doing this. Okay, we're gonna cut right down the center of the breastbone. Just separating the fat for now. Leave all the fat on. We're gonna be roasting it with the fat on. Now the way you cut the breast off is that you go as close to the breastbone, the sternum, as humanly possible, because you want to get as much meat off of this as you can. See? Come on, there we go. One breast off. And it's okay that you have some meat left on here because it's going right into our stock. We're going to break the shoulder socket. There we go. And if you'll notice, all of these pieces are getting broken down to be like roughly the same size. So it's just an important thing to watch for. We're going to further break down the leg and thigh in a minute. So here's our wing and shoulder. Same thing on the other side. Find the breastbone, here we go. Okay, our other wing and shoulder has been released. Now we've got one last breast. Again, you're going to find the breastbone, cut right alongside it, and everything else from there kind of drops right off. Come on, dude. Nope. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna actually steam the floors tonight too. Okay, this is what's left of our carcass. This is our other breast. Awesome. Okay, let's get organized, shall we? Okay, so now we're a little more organized. We have all of the carcass pieces on a separate roasting sheet. That's the breastbone, the wingtips, the neck or whatever, the backbone, everything that we kind of took off the bird for discard. We're not discarding it, we're just putting it to the side. Then we took our butcher pieces. I broke down the thigh and leg a little bit more so that all of our pieces would be more uniform, covered them back and front with all of the brine, every little bit of it. The salt acts as a, is the word desiccant? Desiccant? The salt draws out the moisture from the bird, which we'll then put back in as we are cooking. So we have all of these butcher pieces that we're going to leave open and put into our fridge overnight. We're not going to use them until tomorrow. This is the inside of my fridge. So all the pieces going right in. I know it's like a little gross to have something so open in the fridge, but organize your fridge so that you can fit it in there. And that's it for those for the night. Now what do we do with the rest of this stuff? Good question. Let's set our, oh, I'm about to step all over my microphone. Great. I gotta go this way. Okay, let's turn our empty oven on. Make sure your oven's empty. Turn your oven on to 425 because we're going to be getting all of these things roasty and toasty. And so we're going to take a medium-sized onion, like 3 carrots, depending on how big they are. I'm going to make that decision kind of as we're working. Let me separate my carrots from their greens. If you're a juicer, save your carrot greens. Bunch of bay leaves that we're going to leave on the side. I'll show you why. And some celery. So first, let's clean off our knife a little bit, just a little bit. We're going to cut our onion into quarters. You can leave the this is safer. Not that you can't cut on not marble, what the hell are these called? Silestone. Not that you can't cut on those, but you shouldn't. And it's safer to cut on a cutting board. Man, oh man, I got my knives sharpened and they're not actually sharp. Okay, so we're going to leave the skin on, leave everything on. We're just going to put it on the roasting tray. And so what we're doing is we're going to roast all of this off to get everything caramelized and yummy, so that when we go to make our stock, we've taken the most flavor that we can from all of these veggies and meat to put into our stock, so that our stock doesn't actually have to cook terribly long. It just has to get all the flavors happy. Now, if you have 3 big carrots, I would use 3 big carrots. These carrots are like pretty paltry. So I'm using like, I don't even know how much this is, 7 really little carrots. It's fine. We're just trying to get them on here and roasted. I don't know what you are. Okay. And then I'm gonna grab like 3 ribs of celery. The celery actually looks really good. Cut off the ends. Make sure you wash them because celery is always like, it's a dirty veggie. Okay. You dirty veggie. Okay. So all these pieces. Now, I'm gonna season this like a little bit, but we're going to season this so many additional times that it's not actually so necessary. Just kind of make sure everything on here is touching the metal of the tray. Let's wash our hands again. This is a very COVID-friendly Thanksgiving because of how much hand washing we're doing. You're all still compulsively washing your hands, right? We haven't like done a hand washing check-in with each other since, I don't know, like May, but let's all make sure we're still doing the hand washing thing. Okay, we need salt and we need olive oil. I like good olive oil by Olive Oil Jones. Still not paying me to shill for them, but I wish they would. I love Olive Oil Jones. I love all their products. So pay me, guys. Give me free olive oil because I always talk you up because I believe in your product. Believe in Olive Oil Jones today. All right, we're gonna do a nice glug. And then we're going to put all of this in the oven for like, it doesn't have to cook because it's then going into a pot full of water to simmer for a few hours. So I'm gonna put it in for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Really what I'm looking for is that the onions look caramelized. So whenever that happens, we're kind of done with the roasting bit of making our stock. So I'm gonna throw this in the oven, show you what it looks like when it comes out, then I'll show you the next step for making your stock and getting ready to make your gravy. So our turkey was in the oven for 30 minutes, our turkey pieces, And so what we did was we took all of them off of our baking sheet and put it all into a large stock pot, covered it with water, threw in a tablespoon of kosher salt, about, like almost a tablespoon full of black peppercorns. If you don't have full peppercorns, just throw some black pepper in. And I threw in 3 bay leaves. Then we deglazed our roasting pan, which, real talk, I thought that I had filmed for you, and it turns out the camera wasn't on. So you don't get to see me do that because this is not a fake kitchen. This is a real kitchen. And once we do a thing with our food, we've done it already. It's not like I have like more that I can go back to. But so what we did was we took our baking sheet, our roasting pan that all of this was on, put some hot water on it, and started scraping up the little bits with our wooden spoon. And then once all the bits and fat and stuff was loose, we just poured it into a bowl. And what's going to happen is as this sits and cools and separates, we're actually going to see the fat separate off the bits. And so we're going to be able to use that fat when we make a roux for our gravy to thicken the gravy, and we'll be able to use the bits and juices and stuff in the gravy. So that's going to be super yummy, and just kind of leave it to the side. Our stock is going to cook on a kind of medium heat, just a simmer for at least 2 hours. I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of let it go as I'm prepping other things to cook. So it's going to be at least 2 hours, but you could do more. I like to just kind of let this go, and like I make almost everything for Thanksgiving the day before because most Thanksgiving foods taste better the next day, which is why Thanksgiving leftovers are so good, and in some ways like better than the Thanksgiving foods themselves. So I'm going to be using my stock in my gravy, in my stuffing, because we're going to make sort of a custard out of the chicken stock, turkey stock. So that's great. Make sure this is like a very good opportunity while this cooks to like plan out the rest of the meal. And I don't just mean what are we making, because you probably know what you're making already because you did your food shopping. I mean, do you have the serving pieces that go with each dish? Get them out and get them ready so that you're not like rushing when everything has to go on the table. Do you know what time everything has to be into the oven in order to be hot for when you want to sit down? So I always do kind of like a run of show list before even like a little dinner party. I know, okay, we want to be sitting down at 8 o'clock and my thing is going to take an hour to cook, so it needs to start at 7. I kind of do all the math backwards so that I know when I have to be where. It also lets you put things on your list like take shower, so that you're ready for when you have guests over. So yeah, doing all of that beforehand, it seems a little anal retentive, but it makes you actually able to enjoy your holiday instead of like rushing around like a maniac and maybe being like a little mean to the people that you live with. Make a list, follow the list, and then like you know where you have to be when, and it's not stressful. And figure out what can fit in your oven when. Like I know how big my roasting sheets are and how big my casserole dishes are, and so I know how many of what I can fit in my oven at the same time. So, don't think that you can fit 5 things in your oven to heat when only 4 of them fit, and now you don't know what to do with the potatoes, or you don't know what to do with the stuffing. And get creative. Things like mashed potatoes, which sit really well, throw them in a crock pot on warm, and just like let them stay warm, and that way you're not using oven space, you're not using like any prime real estate, you're not even using for stuff like that because you know that they sit great. Make it easy on yourself. So yeah, I'm going to put this on the stove, start like making sweet potatoes for tomorrow, and I will catch up with you and show you what it looks like when it's done and we're ready to strain it and how to start making our gravy.